So today I'm going to show you guys how to install a AEM water-methanol kit on the Focus ST and also explain the benefits. I'm going to show you guys how to install everything and the reason why you'd want to run water-methanol even if you need to tune for it or not. I'm also going to show you how to make your own mixture for the water-methanol, so that way there you save yourself some money. So when you buy one of these AEM water-methanol kits, they used to come with instructions, but now you have to actually print them out or look at them on your phone. I prefer printing them, but this is what it's going to look like right here. We have the 3350 kit. I believe the 51 is for naturally aspirated. Here, your table of contents, kind of like an introduction, everything that you're getting, explaining the nozzle and all that. So the new V3 kit, they changed the design of the nozzle itself. It's more complex than it used to be. Personally, I like the V2 nozzle design better, just because there's less moving parts. But the V3 nozzle isn't bad. This is the layout. So this right here, you got a progressive controller that comes with this kit. It's really nice. Looks exactly like that. But I'll also show you the one that's actually in the car as well. Now my kit is all hooked up, but I'm going to show you how I did it. So hopefully it makes it a lot easier for someone that's wanting to try to do this. Now you could get a AEM kit and switch out the nozzle for like a snow performance nozzle. Other people, they like to switch out the pumps as well, or even the lines. So you can do that. Some people run solenoids. I don't run a solenoid. I just don't really need it. Never had. I've ran water-methanol since 2015 to 2019 on the V2 AEM kit. And I've done the same thing ever since. This is V3 kit, is a little bit more different, but overall it's the same. So the biggest thing here, really, you have to, if you're not great with wiring, don't be too intimidated, because this will really explain everything right here. As you can see, I'll show you how I wired mine up, and it'll really clarify, you either wanting to do it or not. You also want to make sure that the tank is higher than the pump, but lower, or try to be lower than the injection point, so that way there it doesn't try to gravity feed everything. So there's arrows for the flow direction on the pump. This explains all the controller settings. Your arm switch, which an arm switch basically allows you to shut it off and on and arm it, so that way there it doesn't just buzz the whole time. There's an LED indicator light, which tells you if the tank is low or something is wrong with the system. It'll have certain blinks to kind of warn you what's going on, and you can troubleshoot those. The map sensor that's basically built into the controller. So the progressive controller ramps up from the settings. So here is the old design. I don't know why they still have it on here, but I actually like this design better than the new one because there's less going on. So it does have a pre-screen just like this with the spring. This is your little orifice right here. But now the difference is this orifice is made of plastic and not brass like that. And these jets you have to swap out on the old setup. The new setup, the jets are stationary, and you swap out these orifices to a bigger size orifice, and it's like a swirl chamber basically, and it allows for more flow through. System errors for your blinks, diagnosing diagram, your controller. You also have a status LED light on there as well. I really like this controller over anyone else's controller personally, just because it's really easy to control. This would be your start point, beginning of the ramp up because this is a progressive controller, so it'll start spraying, but then it'll progressively spray full when it's maxed out. So this will go from like 10 to 20. So that's where you'd start and stop for the full spray. There's a fuse that's built in for safety. Test button, short circuit. So there's the flow output. This is probably based off the V2 kit, because the instructions are basically the same as far as connection goes for the system. So the mixture that I do is the Winter Blend Walmart washer fluid, -20. This has about 32 to 35% methanol. The rest is water and just a dye. So that's all that's in it. I've checked the SDS many times. This yellow heat right here is just pure methanol, nothing else. So if you want to just run this alone, you can, for just cooling effects, and you can save money just doing that without adding the heat. If you want to run 50-50, then you want to add at least minimum 3 bottles to 1 gallon of the washer fluid and put it in your tank. I just mix it right in the tank. I'll show you how I do that. What I'll do is I'll pour the bottles of yellow heat in there, and then I'll add my gallon of the blue washer fluid. Now, you want to make sure you don't run a all-season blue washer fluid, because it has the additives that you do not want going through your engine. You want the winter style Walmart brand. I would recommend probably buying like a lot of them in advance, because they only sell them in certain places at certain times. So in the summer they do not sell them here, for example. So I'm going to show you guys how I hook this up. Now this is how I have mine set up. I got the pump in place, bolted up with 2 bolts with 2 screws. I got the pre-filter, which basically I'd recommend this. It helps filter any debris that would be in the tank, and it pre-filters before the pump, so basically it would save the pump from any contamination. When you get this controller, it's going to be a big long strand of wire harness basically, so don't be intimidated. It's going to have ends that you're going to be able to open up, and you're going to want to tie them together. So basically you got your pink wire and your orange wire coming from your controller. You're going to want to connect those with the pump on the black and red wire. So that's going to come from right here. Connect those wires. I would solder them personally and then wrap them up to protect them with some electrical tape. The red wire and the black wire, so I got the ground right here on the body, and then I got my power right here. I'm going to show you what fuse that is here in a minute. So this would be number 37, F37 on the rear fuse. So this could be different on the facelift versions. I'm not 100% sure. This is a switched fuse. I believe it's for the sunroof, moonroof. So this is an add fuse. I believe this is a 15 amp on there. I just tied it in to the power source right there. This is the connection I just wrapped up. I am going to clean that up at some point. I want to put some heat shrink over that. But for now it's like that. So that's the power source. The ground is there. Now the pump level sensor connectors are white and brown. Okay. But that you don't have to connect because it's already connected for you in the harness. You just connect it right to here. It's so easy. Where the Snow Performance kit, you have to drill a hole, get all that plastic inside, you gotta wash out, and then you gotta connect the boot that goes in there. Just a plug and play, so way easier. Ran my wires all the way down through here to the side, opened all this plastic up, ran it underneath in between the carpet, in the side of the car. Have it running in here. So you'd connect this. This is your boost source. So you want to connect that to your symposer, delete plate, or any source of boost or vacuum that you can run to supply this. There's the harness for the kit. Those are all the wires right there. It's a lot of them. There's a couple that actually you really don't need, for example, and I just kind of lay them off to the side. I don't cut them short. I used to, my old kit, I cut them short, and I shouldn't have, because, for example, the arm switch, I decided to run this time around, and before I just let the system be armed the whole time, and it would just kick on when I wanted to. So, let's see here. We got the boost safe, that's the green wire. We're not running that. We're running the arm switch, which is yellow. So I ran that underneath the carpet. See that right there? So that's the arm switch. So that will shut it off or on. So I have my arm switch up in here. I'm gonna close this off after I'm done with this video, but this is just for explanation purposes. So I have it off right now. So the arm switch has a ground and a power source. The power source is actually on the fuse. The yellow wire is connected in the middle of the switch right here to activate it. And then your ground, I have it underneath this carpet, and it's connected on a bolt on the frame on the side over here. And I'm going to show you what that looks like on the opposite side, because it's the same exact design. So if you look, there's a 10mm bolt right here. That's the ground that I'm using for that arm switch. For the LED light, you're going to have to connect that to the harness because it doesn't come connected. So you got the gray and the violet wire. I ran that up through. And I drilled a little hole and slid this with the wires in. And then I connected it with the wires, and works out perfect. Now, how I used to have it ran, because that's a more difficult spot to put it. This controller I never used to have down here. There's actually many spots you can put this controller. I've seen a lot of people put the controller in here. If you don't use your cup holders, for example. I've seen people put them in here. From 2015 to 2019, I ran the controller behind here on the cob access port, facing that direction. So the knobs would face that direction. So I couldn't actually see a warning light. I'd have to look at the light. And I had my LED stuck through here, and the wires would just come through, and I'd feed them through in here, and it'd be hidden. And all the wires I'd have come down from here, down in there, with this cob access port wire. And honestly, that's probably the easiest way to have this set up, the previous way I did it. So if you're running a Water-Meth kit just for cooling, I'd recommend, for stock turbo, I'd recommend running it at 6 psi, because it's going to start quick because the spool's quick. So you're going to want to start it at 6 or even 8, and set the max at 18 right there. Okay, on big turbo, for just cooling, not tuning, I'd set it at 10 and 20. Now if you want to run just full max spray, you can turn this down to match up with your beginning spray, and it'll just come full on the whole time and not progressively spray. So there's that option as well. This goes from 5 psi to 35, and the beginning is 2 to 10. So for my boost reference hose, I just zip tied it right here. It's not going to come off because it's such a small diameter hose that literally doesn't need anything clamped on there. This is barbed, but I zip tied it just for extra insurance. So I have my boost hose running through the firewall here, coming down. You can see it. This is it right here. Now you can run it a different way. I just ran it more like an OEM style. Drilled some holes. I got mine connected to a map tap right here. Now I've used zip ties to hold it in place, and it actually works really well. It doesn't actually pop off, so works out great. So now I'm going to show you guys how I ran my line. So I got the tank, I got my nylon line. You want to make sure that you run this as straight as possible on your fittings, because otherwise they will leak. So you don't want it bending this fitting. So you don't want the hose going like this on the fitting. So you got to try to keep it as straight as possible. There's a flow direction right there. You can see the arrows pointing that way. So I got this going through one of them rubber grommets going down. And I'm going to show you guys how I ran this. It's actually freaking crazy because there's an extra spot to run that line underneath the car next to the fuel lines. Alright, so I have the line coming from the bottom of where the spare tire well is. I have it running through here. Now I have it going, I have it zip tied here. I got it zip tied back there. But now look at this. This is where the crazy part is. This is zip tied. And then it goes through an extra spot. Look at this. This is right here. This is the Water-Meth line. There's an open spot on the 2013. I don't know if the rest of them have it like that, but they might have changed this from the older models. Goes all the way underneath, just like factory. You can see it. See it? Now, I'd prefer it to be under here because if it does leak, it's going to be on the outside under the car, not inside the car. And the chances of it getting hit by debris is very slim as far as like something that's going to puncture it. But if it does happen, like I said, you're going to get a warning light, and you're also going to have a mess on the outside, not on the inside of the car. You can see the line. I ran it through up here, zip tied it right there, ran it up through, kind of just following the body, zip tied it right there. I have a little connector right there, just so it makes it easier to work on. Then it's connected to the Water-Meth nozzle, which is right here. And I have the silicone adapter fitting. So this light brown wire is also a wire that I don't use. It's for the solenoid. Now, the only reason you need a solenoid is to prevent backflow or, just gravity feeding on the nozzle. Actually only recommended really if you have your tank higher than your injection point, or if you're running a 4-port meth setup, then you definitely want to run that. I would recommend getting the Pro Meth solenoid because theirs is the best quality one. We're not running the solenoid. We got the yellow switch. The boost safe we're also not running, so that could be probably hooked up to a Guardian Angel possibly. That'd be kind of, or even like a fail-safe gauge at AEM offers, but we don't run that because we're not tuning for it. When you're not tuning for it, then you really don't need any fail safes, because the system will show you or tell you the problems that's going on. When you diagnose it, you'll know, like if that light is flashing, for example, how many flashes will indicate what the problem is. Alright, so I'm going to show you guys how this works. I'm going to switch this on right now. I got the ignition on. Hear that? It's going to buzz. Okay. Right now it's flashing because it's telling me that there's no fluid or hardly any fluid in the tank. I'm going to turn it on and watch this. Hear that? Watch. Turn it on. Watch this. That's the buzzing sound that makes. So it's armed. So from 2015 to 2019, that's all I did. When I started my car up, without the arm switch, that's what it would do. And honestly, it ran fine. I had no failures for literally 5 years every summer. Ran fine. You just have to kind of block out the buzzing sound. So there's that. To do a test, what you're going to want to do is once you put your fluid in your tank, hold this button down when you have the arm switch on or the car on auxiliary to power everything on. Hold this test button down for about 5 seconds. You'll hear the pump kick on. And what you want to do is check the spray pattern. I actually have a video. It's a short of me testing out the spray pattern. So I'm not going to show you in this video here. But you hold this down. Do it 3 times minimum. So that way there it gets all the air out. And you can verify the spray pattern. I would have another person checking the spray pattern. So that way there, you know, or have someone in your car doing it. That way there, you know, the spray is good. So these have a little vent hole right here. You can actually see. So that's moisture from the alcohol that's inside already. You got a little, I got like 3 bottles or 2 bottles of heat in there. You can see the level sensor. It has a little breather hole because it does need to breathe a little bit when it draws vacuum, essentially, from the pump. And these new tanks, so from like, I think 2017 on, they added 0.15 extra on the tanks to have more room to mix, because they used to be just 1 gallon tanks. Now they're 1.15, so you can just fill these up, no problem, with what you need. And she's full, filled to the max. Look at that. So I'm going to run it for cooling purposes. I'm going to run a 250cc nozzle. Alright, so I'm going to show you my diagram on the 2013 Focus ST. I don't know if it's definitely not the same on the facelift versions, but it might be the same on the 13, 14. So F36 for the rear fuse box. I'm just going to confirm with you guys. Actually, it's F37. Sorry. F37 is moonroof. So I was right. So it's F37. Okay. That's not being used for anything, so we're not worried about it drawing any extra amperage. It's only a 5. Okay. Now for the front one, we get on number 74. 74 is a low beam headlight supply. So it's a low beam headlight supply. It's a 15 amp. 74. Okay. So we have it on 74 for the switched power supply. So that's only if you want to arm switch it. That's where I connected mine. For the back one is the power for the whole system. And then the ground is on the rear. So if you want to run it just that way, that's the simple way of doing it. I would not connect it directly to the battery because you're going to drain your battery and kill it. So here is the nozzle. This is a spare nozzle that I have. There has been a lot of complaints about these plugging up. Residual buildup on these that will happen. I'm going to give this a test. I think a lot of it has to do with the mixtures of what people are doing or running. And there is other washer fluids out there, like for example, Splash Original Blue. And I believe that has like a different blue additive to it that's almost like more richer in color. And I believe that actually will cause more problems because I've never had problems with the Winter Blend Formula SuperTech from Walmart. Never have. I mean, it never plugged up or had any buildup hardly at all on the V2 kit. So we're going to find out on the V3 kit. So you can see it's all one unit. This comes out right here. It's definitely hard doing this one-handed. Okay, here we go. So there's that. So this is the stuff that I don't really like. So this is like a check valve that's in here. It's a plastic check valve now. Not really a fan of that new design, honestly. And it's got this separate gasket that can deform. So I'm really not a fan of that. And that gasket is a pain in the butt to get on there. Here's the filter. So it's like a pre-filter for the nozzle itself. It's hard to see it. See that pattern right there? So each one, so there's a 250, a 500, and a 1000. This is a 250. And the way you can tell is the 250 is less spread apart. See that right there? That's a 1000. It has less swirls around it inside. And this one right here is going to be your 500. So that's the 500. It's hard to really tell, honestly. You gotta actually do it in person. You're gonna put this back together. You're gonna want to push on this and press this clip in there. And there's only one way it works. So I got the clip back in there. You want to make sure this clip can't fall out or be loose. It's installed wrong. So this has tension on it. Overall, it's not a bad design, but they could have thought it out more, honestly. And I wish they would have kept the V2 design. Maybe just modify the way the nozzles were on the V2s and left everything else alone. But it is what it is. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. It was kind of a slow video, but I like to explain in detail how I like to do things and how I install things. And I recommend running a 250cc nozzle if you're just running it for cooling purposes. If you want to run for more fueling and you're running a big turbo, for example, or even a stock turbo and you want to have fueling, you're going to want a 500cc or higher. You can even run dual nozzles, and that's what this is for right here. I ran a 500cc in the throttle body spacer and a 250cc in the cold charge pipe for a combined 750 cc's of fluid. And it made like 380 at the wheels and 410 foot-pounds of torque on the 7163 EFR, and that was only on 23 pounds of boost. Like and subscribe, give the video a thumbs up, and we'll see you in the next one. Hopefully you enjoyed.